Hey, hi guys, so today I am doing a Q&A. It's been a while since I've done a Q&A in English, so yeah, let's see if I can find your questions. So first question, and not an easy one, how do you manage loneliness? So I get questions very frequently about loneliness. You guys seem to apparently know that I feel lonely very frequently. So if I'm honest with you, I'm someone who is alone a lot of the time, and I wouldn't say I feel lonely most of the time that I am alone, but there are definitely times when I feel very lonely and I miss my friends and I miss my family, and I just also miss people that I don't know, if that makes any sense. It's more like I feel like I lack in my life people that I could share certain things with. Like, I don't really know anyone in my life that reads a lot. I don't really know anyone in my life that's on YouTube or online, and that's a big thing. It's kind of isolating sometimes because I would love to do a lot of things that I just don't want to do alone, and also when I try to share it with people, sometimes it doesn't click. So, and there has been at a few occasions, there have been times where loneliness was the number one thing I struggled with in my life, if I'm honest with you. Definitely. So I can definitely understand how it'd be something you would suffer from. I'd say, to be fair, that very frequently when we feel lonely, it comes from within, it comes from ourselves, not necessarily from being genuinely lonely, if that makes any sense. And I think first thing is to really work on ourselves and try to see if we feel comfortable with ourselves, and if we feel lonely whenever we are not surrounded by people, or if we feel lonely when we are with people. I think it's very important to ask ourselves why. Is it because I don't choose my relationships very well? Is it because I am someone who's not comfortable with oneself? Once you've been through that, it's also true that sometimes you're lonely just because you're lonely. Like, a human being cannot be as introverted as you could be. I'm a very introverted person. As introverted as you could be, there are times when you just want to be with people. So for me, it was definitely a mixture of different things. It was acknowledging the fact that yes, I was lonely. It was stopping resenting certain people for feeling lonely, because a lot of time in my life I felt like I wanted to be with those people, or I used to be with those people, and because those people were not around anymore for multiple reasons, I felt very angry, and that prevented me from searching new relationships or new adventures or new activities that could make me feel less lonely. So yeah, that's a very vague perhaps and broad answer, but I would say definitely try to see what's wrong within, first of all. Second of all, try to let go of any negativity or resentment, frustration that comes with the loneliness. And third, last but not least, try to use what you have. If you are someone who lives in a village and you know your neighbors, try to maybe hang out with your neighbors. If you are someone who goes to school and there are activities and clubs that you can join, try to do that. If you're not comfortable with any of that, try to use the internet. Try to use perhaps special and punctual occasions. Yeah, for me, I don't think I'm a very good example, because I've definitely just given up, and I've admitted that most of my life I'll be lonely, and that's fine. And I think I have turned definitely to creating things and to just exchanging with people on a different level or in a different way, mostly the internet. But that doesn't work for everyone, really. What are some of your favorite films? Oh gosh, that's a difficult question. Well, my favorite movie, I would say, is Before Sunrise. I loved Before Sunrise and Before Sunset. I didn't really like Before Midnight that much. I loved Before Sunrise. I do really enjoy The Dead Poet Society. I do really enjoy... what do I like? That's a difficult question. Oh, I like Ghost World. I really enjoy Edwig and the Angry Inch. I like Ruby Sparks. I like a lot of movies, but they don't really come to mind right now. So I will try to put some titles here. What is your position on honey production? Do you think it can be sustainable and more sensitive toward bees? So actually everything I've heard and everything I've read wasn't really positive about the honey production. And if you just think of it, I mean, for me personally, the way I go about this is kind of the same way I go about eggs. Nature did not happen, sorry for that, nature did not happen and things do not happen for us human beings. And if bees produce honey, it is not for us, like God or nature or whoever you want to believe in or whatever you believe exists. They did not create bees and they did not make bees produce honey so that we could eat the honey. That's the way I see it. Just like hens don't lay eggs for us. So the way I see it is that we shouldn't in the first place take something that's not for us, especially if it is meant for other beings. And that's what it looks like for me with honey, from what I've read and what I've researched. So I am just not in favor of honey production. Simply. How do you get interested in literature of some specific countries, like why this country and not another? And how does this interest usually grow into the feeling that, I must read something? That's a really good question actually, but the answer is probably very simple for me. So you might have noticed that I am really into Japanese literature, and I'm also really into Arabic literature, especially Palestinian and Egyptian literature. I'm also very interested in Russian literature, and it's true that it's not only the literature, it's also the language, it's also the history, it's also the country itself and the people. For me, it's definitely the people. If I meet someone, like for example Egyptian literature, I've always been really interested in Egypt. When I was younger, like a lot of kids, I believe ancient Egypt was like a fascination for me. I was super interested. I had books and little statues and little objects, and I had DVDs and stuff. And then I kind of forgot about it for a while. But then when I started teaching, I had a lot of students who were Egyptians, and they were the ones I got along with the best. They were sometimes a bit difficult to handle, but they were so nice, so warm, so just people I got along well with. So it made me more interested in Egypt, it made me more interested in the politics, and then I was wondering, what does their literature look like? And that's how I got into it. And then when someone tells you that Naguib Mahfouz is, for example, the Flaubert or Balzac of Egypt, you want to read it. Or when someone tells you about, I don't know, Mahmoud Darwish and just how wonderful his poetry is, and you feel strongly about the Palestinian cause, you just want to read it. So for me, that's how it goes. I would say that the number one thing is people, and then I get interested in the whole thing. To be completely honest with you though, I have very specific countries that I feel very strongly attracted to, but I'm also generally interested in almost every country. I think something I really like also is just languages. If you look at Russian, if you look at Japanese, and if you look at Arabic, they have different alphabets, very different pronunciations. So yeah, that's perhaps something I'm interested in. I've never been really interested in languages that resemble French, even though I love Italian. Oh my god, I love listening and hearing Italian, but I'm not like so interested in Italian. And when I was in middle school, I chose German. Between Spanish, Italian and German, I chose German, which is clearly the one that resembles French the least. So for me, that's how it goes. Do you usually read books in their original language, English or French? I tried to read Lolita in English but found it hard. I'm French Canadian but bilingual, and I was disappointed to not be able to fully understand it, so I gave up and will read in French. Okay, so that's an interesting question. Usually I read in the original language, French and English, but because that's the only languages I feel confident enough, and I'm confident enough to read in. But hopefully one day I will be able to read a little bit in Japanese and to read a little bit in Arabic. Oh my god, that would be the dream. But for Nabokov, actually, I read Lolita in French as well, because I read it a while back and I wasn't at that time really considering reading in the original language. But I have another book by Nabokov in English. I think it's Ada. Where is it? Fuck. Okay, I have too many books. I don't know where it is. But basically, I have a book by Nabokov in English, Ada, and it is kind of difficult for me as well. So I wonder, I mean, it's probably not that you have anything wrong with English. It's probably just Nabokov. I feel like some authors are really hard to read. For example, I feel completely fine reading most of the things in English, but I tried to read a South African author, Kutsi, I think his name is, and oh my gosh, it was so hard. So I think it really depends on the style and the author. But honestly, I'm not someone who feels badly or negatively about translated fiction or translated literature in any way. It is definitely true that, I mean, it's different from reading it in the original language, but it's better than nothing, and it's not like you're not getting the atmosphere, the feelings, the intentions of the author. If it's well translated, you should be able to get at least the sense of it. Are your favorite places and beaches in the south of France? If you're thinking about France, yes. If you're thinking of the world, probably not. But you know, sometimes I think for most people, the place you're born and the place you've been raised in, they hold a special place in your heart. Is India in your travel list? Definitely. I desperately, absolutely want to go to India, but I just don't feel ready. And I know nobody who wants to go to India with me, and I don't think I can go to India by myself. I don't see myself doing that, but who knows? Have you read any writer's book from Latin America? If so, which book or author you like the most? So I am very sorry, because I feel like it's not the first time I get this question and I have not a positive answer to give you yet. I've read Borges, and I didn't like it. Sorry, don't want to offend anyone here. So no, but please give me suggestions. Oh, I really want to read Clarice Lispector. I think she's from Brazil. But yeah, give me suggestions, guys. Oh, and I've read Neruda, Pablo Neruda, but that's the extent of it, sorry. How old were you when you made your first big trip, and how did your parents react? I was 19. I traveled to Hungary, Germany, Sweden and Russia. My parents, they didn't really say anything. I think it's funny how many people sometimes, frequently, not sometimes, very frequently, many people ask me about how did my parents react to me becoming vegan? How did my parents react to me pursuing those studies? How did my parents react to me traveling? How did my parents react to me this or that? And I don't know if it is that my family is very open-minded, but my parents don't really react. I mean, they're interested and they're worried sometimes, and they give me their opinion. Like, for example, my parents don't like me getting tattoos. My dad's always very worried when I travel, but it's not like it's a big reaction or something to really take into consideration in like that would prevent me from doing something or that would make me hesitate. My parents just let me live, really, and I thank them for that. I really like my parents. How would you live your life differently if money or responsibilities were not an issue? Good question. I would just be I'd just be happier, I think, like everyone else. But like, if you want concrete, detailed information, I think I would definitely travel a lot more, and I think I would definitely spend a lot more time creating. I would like to create videos that are a bit more artsy and a bit more elaborate. I would like to create podcasts about literature. I would like to run my blog. I would like to meet people and do interviews for YouTube. And I would like to keep on writing, obviously. I love to write. I used to write so much, and I've always written. As far as I can remember, I've always been a kid who loved to write fiction and stories and stuff like that. And I have a few ideas that I think could be really good material for novellas or novels, and I haven't had the time in the past 3 years or so to work on that, and it's something that really pains me. So for me, it would definitely be traveling more and just creating more. Creating online and creating as writing fiction and also illustrating, because it's something perhaps you don't know about me, but I draw. I'm not necessarily super good, but I can draw. I like to draw, and I think it'd be a great outlet for me as well. And all those things I'd like to do and I'd like to share with you, and that's probably the number one thing that would be different in my life, and that's something that actually I think contributes a lot to me being depressed. What novels were required reading at your high school? Is it different across Europe? Yes, it's different across Europe. It depends the country. It depends on the country you're in. It also depends on the year. I was required to read Beckett, Flaubert, Rousseau. Actually, I don't really remember a lot of the books I were required to read. Baudelaire. Yeah, I don't remember. If I can remember, I put a list here. When are you going to visit Romania? I really want to visit Romania. I actually watched yesterday a French TV show that's focusing on trains in different countries. It's like a travel show, and I watched one in Romania, and I really want to come to Romania. What do you do when you feel lonely and depressed? So it is kind of the same question as the first one, I guess, but not really. I mean, it depends what you think of when you use the word depressed. If you feel like really, really sad, but not like depression. If I'm really sad, I just try to accept the fact that I'm sad. I will occasionally pray. Praying really makes me feel better. And sometimes I can pray for like, I wouldn't say an hour, but quite some time. Praying, watching videos that are uplifting, inspiring, or that make me realize how privileged I am. Calling someone, talking to someone. Yeah, you know what, it's kind of sad. I was gonna say something, but it's really sad. I'm so used to being sad or like demotivated or things like that I don't really do anything. I just wait for it to pass. Sometimes I even go to sleep. So yeah, and if we are talking about depression, which is probably a lot more what I have, I don't do anything. But if you feel this way, if you feel really empty, tired, painful, just bad and worthless so often, I would really suggest seeing a therapist, because it could be depression, or it could be something else that manifests itself with depression. Is it hard to get published in France? Is it even necessary to do in order to get ahead academically, professionally? It is really hard to get published in France, and it's not necessary, but it's highly suggested if you want to get, in academia, on a serious level, I would say. Okay, let's go to the messages now. Best diet that works for you. So I've said it multiple times. For me, the best diet is what used to be called Rotil 4 but has disappeared. But for me, when I was eating fruits most of the day, I felt my best. And when I was not eating salt, oil and white flour, that's when I felt the best. Absolutely. Who are some of your Arabic Egyptian singers' song? Oh god, that's a difficult question because I don't know how to pronounce the name. So I'm gonna put a list here, I think. What would be your best advice to someone who's planning to open a YouTube channel? Be who you are. Do what you like the most. People, I feel, love to watch things that are made with passion and honesty. Have a decent equipment, like the sound is super important, more important than the video quality, I'd say even. And be consistent, I think, and be tough. If you are going to talk about certain things, you're gonna get some really negative comments. You have to be prepared for that. What would you recommend for someone that has to work full-time to support themselves but want to study 2 degrees at college? Any recommendation for working, studying part-time? So I've been working and studying simultaneously for the last 3 years, I want to say, or 2 years, I don't even remember. I think it was 3 years. It's definitely very challenging and very exhausting. So I don't know, if you have the possibility to do only 1 degree and not 2 degrees, that's the first thing I would suggest. Then it is really, really important for you to have a super efficient schedule, to sleep very well, to eat very well, to be on time, to not let yourself get overwhelmed with things. Honestly, it's gonna be exhausting, it's gonna be so difficult, it's gonna be depressing and challenging, but you have to just stick through and think of the end goal. But it's going to be a year or 2 years that your life is not going to be a real life anymore. At least that's how I feel about it. But yeah, good luck for that, really. If you were to travel somewhere, where vegan food was hard to find, or someone chose to share their culture with you through food that wasn't vegan, would you accept it? Absolutely not. I've been in a situation like that. I've been in a situation like that in Kazakhstan, in Myanmar, in Japan even. I have been offered food that was supposedly vegan, and I'm sure it wasn't vegan, and I realized it afterwards or when I was eating it. And then that's a bit more of a tricky situation. If I realize it when I'm eating, I'm just gonna stop eating. But then sometimes I just realize after I have eaten, and it's very I don't know, I just don't like the feeling. It makes me feel gross and stuff, but that's definitely not my fault, and that's something that happens quite frequently. Maybe once when you travel, so that's something to be, taken into consideration. Hello from the United States. Thank you for all the amazing content you put out. Thank you. You're welcome. My question is, would you ever want to visit Alaska? Yes, actually Alaska is one of the places I would love to visit the most. And coming back to the films, I really like Into the Wild. As cliche as it may be, I like this movie a lot. Always makes me cry, always makes me feel things. And I also love the book, so yes. Do you think that porphobia is the worst discrimination? I'm asking that because even though being a woman and an ethnic minority is complicated, I have the impression that what makes my life so hard and block me is being poor. It's kind of difficult for me to say. I think everything kinds of balances out and manifests itself differently depending on your life and the situation, but definitely money and class issues are things you can perhaps see in the most direct and obvious way in your daily life. But they are also the result of sexism and racism and xenophobia. So I would say I wouldn't classify or put a hierarchy in discrimination. What thing you like the most about teaching, and what do you think about the system education in your country? What I like the most about teaching, if I'm gonna go with something really concrete, what I like the most is when I give my students written homework and they have to write things and I read their personal essays. I love that. I don't know what that says about me, but I just love that. On a more psychological, spiritual, intellectual level, I'd say I just really like to make my students feel a bit more empowered. I love when someone who is shy or a bit unsure, I love when they can express their emotions, when they can feel comfortable enough to say something or ask questions or voice their opinion. That's the one thing I love the most, personally. And the education system in my country is not perfect, but better than in a lot of the countries I know, so yeah. My question for your Q&A: do you believe in supernatural, magic, ghosts, shamanism, fortune tellers, fairies, and what's your opinion on the matter? Also, do you think governments hide the truth about it and about aliens? That's such a weird question. I don't really believe in most of those things. I do believe in spirits though, so yeah. Are you allergic to anything? I am not allergic to anything, and I'm really happy about that. What's the best political ideology in your opinion? Wow, that's a difficult question. That's a difficult question. I think if we're gonna be really idealistic, I think anarchism is definitely the best, because if for anarchism to work, it would mean that we're already in a society that's so self-aware, self-conscious, so much better than it is now. So I think for me it'd be the best in an ideal world. Nowadays I don't really feel like it'd be the best. Definitely on the left, definitely on the very, very left, definitely not capitalism related. Yeah, I don't think there is any at the moment that seems to me to be the absolute best. And that's a bit of a difficult question because depending on the country, different names, different parties. But yeah, on the very, very left for me, definitely. I don't think it's a surprise. Okay, I am now really quickly going on to Twitter because I think I have a few questions there. What are your thoughts on Murakami if you've read him? Haruki Murakami, because there is also Ryu Murakami. I do like Haruki Murakami. I don't think he's the best Japanese writer out there. I don't think he's necessarily very representative of Japanese literature, but I think he's good. I like him. Do you speak Arabic? شوية. If so, where did you learn? I don't really speak Arabic. I know a few things like I don't understand, I am French, thank you. That's beautiful. Are you tired? Are you happy? Are you sad? That kind of things. But I am going to learn. I am. And hopefully one day on this channel, I will have some videos in Arabic. Okay, really quickly, last question because we got cut off. I was curious if real life has diminished your YouTube time or YouTube love, asking this as somebody who is getting a bit tired of social media. That's a very interesting question. I feel like, first of all, I put my Twitter private a while back because I was getting really tired of receiving some hate that was so unjustified. The one thing that got me like, okay, I'm putting myself private was an incident that happens with another French YouTuber, a woman who just wasn't really nice with me, and also people calling me racist for speaking about the three main monotheist religions being Islam, Catholicism or Christianism, not Catholicism, sorry, and Judaism. So after that I was like, okay, I'm tired of the pressure, the hypocrisy, the negativity, the lack of intellectual criticism that's constructive. So yes, I do a bit get tired of it, but not YouTube. I love creating, I love exchanging with you guys. Sometimes it's a bit frustrating, sometimes it's a bit depressing, sometimes it's hard, but I like it and I think I'm gonna keep doing it for a long time, really. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to follow me on Instagram and Twitter if you want to participate in the next Q&As. Feel free to support me on Patreon if you wish to do so with $1 a month. It really helps. And I'll see you soon. Bye, guys.